This is not a dream. We are using your preferred podcast provider as a receiver.
Hello and welcome back to Live from Manchester Morgue. I'm Gary, with me is Ken.
Hello
Ken. And we've got an extra special jam-packed bumper edition of the show today. It's going to be a big one, that's what she said.
Yeah.
Because we've got quite a lot to pack in, that's what she said. Because, well, first of all, it's Spooktober, so let's get that out of the way. Happy October, everybody. Hope you're doing a challenge. If you are doing the challenge and watching 31 films, maybe write in and let us know what they are. We're intrigued. But this episode, this special episode, is about Grimmfest. Grimmfest, for those who are not in the know, is Manchester's very own horror film festival, which comes back to our town every year. You'll know from the name of the show that Ken and I, are based in Manchester, in the north of England. And yeah, we've been lucky enough this year to be able to do some coverage of some of the films. We've had some screeners through, which we've watched, and we've got a few interviews for you in this very episode with some really great filmmakers coming up soon. So, Grimmfest started in 2009. 2009.
Yeah, so we're going to get onto this in a minute. We're going to go through some of our picks of like our favourites that have screened at Grimmfest. And to do that, I kind of went through the archive on the site to remind myself, and I was like, wow, it goes all the way down.
Yeah, I forgot how many that I've actually seen, like at the thing.
Yeah,
like, because we're going to talk in a little bit about we're going to do a little bit of a retrospective on a film that played at Grimmfest. We're going to do the Soska Sisters, American Mary, a bit later on, because that played. A few of their other films have shown as well, including their very first film, which was Dead Hooker in a Trunk. Yeah. Which I remember watching back, must have been 2009. So passes, I'm not sure how many passes are still available because it starts very soon. The festival's on from the 9th to the 12th of October. It's now in the Great Northern.
Yes.
It's been around a lot of venues though. It's been through since 2009. It's done the rounds a bit.
I didn't always think that it was in the Odeon and Great Northern. Oh, it's not always been the Odeon, has it?
No, it used to be the AMC before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a few venues. But now happily in the Great Northern. 9th to the 12th of October if you can make it. Yeah,
there's lots of the filmmakers are there, kind of milling about. There's usually a lot of great merch. Like there's a lot of independent,
merch,
independent like craft makers and stuff like that. They'll turn up. We'll be there if you care. Don't try and like put us in a sack and run away with us like Borat.
So yeah, there's usually some really good guests as well. I also went through the archive to see, because I've missed all of these, unfortunately. I didn't meet any of these people. But since 2009, such horror luminaries as Lance Henriksen was there. Lance Henriksen, horror royalty. Barbara Crampton, the Soska Sisters themselves were there. I remember that was when Rabid came out.
Yeah.
Mick Garris has been there.
Ah, I love Mick.
Reese Shearsmith, who's one of my dream guests to have on this show.
Yeah.
Which will never happen.
From the league, really.
I mean, anyone.
Any guest.
Does anybody want to come on the show? Just give us a shout.
Go and look on the street and get
Yeah, excuse me, mate. Dee Wallace.
Oh, great.
Ken Foree was on.
Oh, God, what a legend. He's dead now, isn't he?
Is he?
R.I.P. I'm pretty sure he is.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Doug Bradley, obviously Pinhead himself. The list goes on, but that's some of the great ones.
Especially Barbara Crampton. She's a dream guest for the Morgue.
Ken Foree's not dead.
Oh, is he not?
No, I had to check that because you freaked me out. No, Ken Foree's not dead.
Well, everyone deserves a good scare in October.
Yeah, well, that was it. That was the joke, guys. Ha Anyway, so yeah, cracking on. So there's a lot of good films lined up this year. As I said before, we've got some interviews coming up with some of the filmmakers, but we've both done a couple of picks of what we're actually excited for. We're probably both excited for a couple of the really big ones this year, which is Beast of War.
Yeah.
Sharks, yeah. Essentially that one monologue by Quint in Jaws about the Indianapolis. That's
Yeah.
the basis of this film. The practical effects look really good. The shark itself looks fucking terrifying.
The shark looks cool. The shark looks gnarly.
Yeah, I don't want to meet that shark anywhere. But yeah, it looks like a good film. There's that and Good Boy about the dog. Good
Boy's the big one for me. Why they choose to screen it at 10:30 at night, I don't know. I'm an old man. I enjoy my sleep. But yeah, I might go and catch Good Boy, but...
Well, that Beast of War is also, isn't it, at 10:35ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these festivals. So we've just had Fantastic Fest in the US, and I follow a lot of like film accounts and cinema influence like we are. And they're complaining about like the hours of going to a festival like this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in the afternoon though. I suppose if you're doing a festival, you've got to. There's so much content when you're as established as Grimmfest.
Yeah,
you've got to have enough time to show all the films. It's a bit of an odd time, but I guess it's a horror film. It's October. You know, people are going to be going out at that time to watch.
Yeah, not everyone's as like sad as me.
No, we are quite old and tired.
Our joints ache.
Yeah.
But yeah, Good Boy's the big one, really. We couldn't get hold of screeners or interviews for Good Boy because I don't think they were available at the time.
I did ask. Oh no, yeah, I did ask about that one and Beast of War.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, we didn't manage to get hold of those.
But yeah, Good Boy's doing the rounds on social media. Everyone knows about it now. The filmmaker, I only just recently found out it's the filmmaker's dog. I think he's called Indy.
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah, because it was the easy way to do it because the dog will respond to everything he wants to do.
Yeah.
So the premise is essentially it's a haunted house horror film from the perspective of the dog who can see the thing.
Only the dog can see it. Yeah.
You know, there's that myth that dogs and cats can see.
Well, for anyone that's owned a dog and it's just randomly started staring up at the fucking corner of the ceiling.
Well, cats do it all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Cats see ghosts absolutely everywhere. So that's the premise of this. I'm looking forward to that one as well.
I am. Like we say, that's the big one. The other one for me is Rabbit Trap. I'll watch anything that Dev Patel does.
Oh, any folk horror I'd watch, and it's apparently a folk horror-esque at least.
Yeah, any folk horror, anything.
Yeah, Dev Patel is mint though as well.
Yeah.
I'll watch that. It's set in the 70s, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
What a time.
Yeah, what a time to be alive.
Be alive, yeah. Especially if you're Ken Forey. He was definitely alive then.
I mean, 1978 would be a good year for him to be alive, shooting zombies and that. I quite like the look of Incomplete Chairs.
Oh, I didn't look at that.
It's a serial killer film about a serial killer he makes chairs out of people.
Oh, great.
Which sounds fucking horrible and great.
Very Ed Gein-esque.
Yeah. And then there's Squealers, which seems to be... It's a French one, Squealers, about kind of a class war thing. Some animal rights activists basically break into an abattoir.
Yeah.
Much to the chagrin of the people who work there.
Yeah.
And it becomes a bit of a cat and mouse thing, I believe.
That sounds good.
That sounds fun.
I did like look at that, and French horror as well is always
French horror is good. Yeah. Right. So another film that we were particularly excited to see, and we managed to get a screener for, was called Frankie Maniac Woman.
Ah, yeah.
Which was written and directed by Pierre Tsigaridis, and we talked to Pierre about the film. We loved it. It's a bit. How did we describe it in the interview?
It's like it's a throwback, but it's kind of, I think all of the films that we watched were kind of a subversion of like previous kind of genre kind of tropes and stuff, which always sounds arsey when you say stuff like that. But yeah, it's like a grindhouse slasher film, but it's about the current climate of body image and
there's a bit of internalized misogyny in there.
Internalized misogyny, yes, and the celebrity and kind of it's based in the LA music scene.
Yeah. And it's done in kind of a Trauma-esque kind of way, I would say.
Trauma, that's a good shout.
It reminded me of a Trauma movie. I want to watch that. So yeah, give that a watch. Frankie Maniac Woman, and here is our interview with Pierre. For our coverage of this year's Grimmfest, we were lucky enough to be able to get a sneak preview of a really cool movie called Frankie Maniac Woman, which is showing on the Friday night, 10th of October at 10:35 p.m. The synopsis from the website reads, battling against the legacy of childhood trauma, internalized misogyny, and the image-obsessed fat-shaming of the LA music business, aspiring singer-songwriter Frankie Ramirez finally snaps with bloody results. And we're even luckier now to welcome director of Frankie Maniac Woman, Pierre Tsigaridis. Thank you so
Thank you
much for
for
coming on.
well, thank you for
Did I get
having
your
me. I'm
name
so
right?
excited.
Did I pronounce your surname correctly
You
there?
you did. You
Oh,
did.
thank
Yep.
goodness.
First time, first yep, you got it right the first time.
Cool, cool. I'd say welcome to the show. We're really thrilled to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this is not your first time at Grimmfest, am I correct?
This is my third time.
So you're an honorary Manc, an honorary Mancunian.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm excited to
Yeah,
be
because
back.
Traumatic You was on last year, wasn't it?
It was, but I couldn't make the trip. Uh,
Ah,
I'm making the trip this year though.
oh, nice, nice.
And
If you
I
get
had
time,
gone for Two
okay.
Witches back in 2021.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Do
Well,
you
if you get a
enjoy your
chance while you're
trips?
here, I
What?
Go
was
on,
going to
guys.
say, if you get a chance while you're here, you should check out the Manchester Museum. It has real mummies in it from
Oh,
Egypt.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
cool.
It's really
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, I may. You know what? I may because I'm staying like I think 4 days. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely worth a visit. It's a really cool place to go.
Do you enjoy your trips to Northern England?
The first time, yeah, I loved it. It was great. It was great. Surprisingly, we had good weather. I don't know about this year. We'll see. But yeah, I had a good time. Like Grimmfest had welcomed me so well, and I think the response for at the time for Two Witches had been like so positive that the movie really had engaged with the audience, and we even had one best scare.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah. So no, and I mean Grimmfest is like honestly, Simeon is one of the biggest supporters of my work. So I'm so happy to be there and represent. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Let's talk about Frankie. So yeah, really great film. It's an incredibly kind of subversive film, which has kind of one foot in the kind of scuzzy 70s slasher genre and one foot in very kind of modern um, conversations on
Yeah.
the superficiality of everything, really. It's an update and expansion of your short I Who Have No One. Uh,
Correct.
and in the intervening years between when you made the short and now, social media has further distorted kind of the global body image and the physical expectations of celebrity. Is that why you wanted to revisit this concept?
Yeah. Well, so it's exactly. I think Dina and I we wanted to make a horror film so badly back in 2017, and basically the how everything really came to be was um, she loved horror. I tell everyone like I hadn't moved to LA to make horror films, so we just wanted to make horror films, and I wanted to make a horror film. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have any other cast at the time. And she was like, I would love to just be a killer because, like sometimes I have some stuff on my chest and that it would be very cool to be a serial killer. And I was like, you know what? We don't have any cast or anything else right now. So how about we make you the villain and the main person? The protagonist and the villain. It's also kind of a recurring theme event that happened eventually in my work. I kind of like that. So at the time we worked with what we had like our life experiences, and then we put out I Have No One that was on Alter. Um, we had developed so much more that we felt a little almost like it felt like the movie was finished, and I think it was really well received by the people from Alter and etc. But we felt like we had not said everything, and so we had the whole story from like the desert scene at the end to the music producer scene. All of that was actually already fleshed out ideas that we had back in 2017 or 18. So we felt like we had put out only just like a small part of the original idea. And like you said, then Instagram and social media and then TikTok getting even bigger and bigger that we were, I was doing other things, she was doing other things, but we had in the background, we had like, oh, Frankie is not dead, or she's still alive in our mind. We need to get her back. So we really wanted to, whenever we could, add some things to Frankie's story. It was a story that was really dear to us, and in fact, I think it's my best work in terms of writing. And I think Dina will agree, because it's a character that's been living in our heads for so long, over such a long period of time, that then we would tweak things as we would just evolve as people, as over the years. We would be
Very organically.
Yeah, we would just add flesh to the skeleton of Frankie, and I think that's why we're personally really proud of the film, because we eventually think we have a really, character that's developed, that goes from point A to point B in her life, and it's kind of meta in that sense, that that's how we were doing it in real life. Also, just to answer this long question, online we had so many, like 900, I think there's been like, I think 900 comments on the YouTube link, and so many of those comments, like 30 to 40% of those comments sometimes would be like, I want more from her, can this be a feature, please? Is it going to be, there really was, and still to this day, I mean, sometimes I would even screenshot those comments, because I would be like, whenever we would be slacking, I'd be like, look, there's actually a lot of people that want to see more of this character, and everybody would be like, this is just like a premise of a character that needs to be on a big screen. And the last thing is, we had put out the movie during COVID, where we wanted to have dreamed of watching it just on a big screen, have it shared with the world. The whole festival run was blocked. We couldn't get anything. So we actually really, really missed out on connecting with the audience, and it just ended up on YouTube. But the short was kind of long, too long for a short, not long enough for a feature, right? So it was like kind of like this weird format that not that many people actually would click to watch. So we were like, we need Frankie to connect with an audience, and we haven't had the true opportunity. So now that I make movies, I had to make Two Witches, make Traumatic, I was like, Frankie needs to come out, and he needs to, be presented to the world, and we'll see what happens. And I'm so happy Grimmfest is, introducing people to Frankie.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Can I just say at this point as well that Dean is an absolute force of nature.
She
I
is.
hadn't seen the short. This was my introduction to her when I watched this movie, and I was like, "Holy shit, she's incredible!"
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a real. Sorry,
Yeah,
go
no?
on. Yeah.
No, she's a fearless actress. She's like,
Yeah.
she's Dina and I have such a strong connection, because basically before doing the horror short, we really wanted to make horror, but we had at the time so many limitations. I had just moved to LA. We didn't, I had to work a lot on like shoots, and it was really difficult to come up with something, So we started doing just like a comedy web series that we actually never put out, but we're really proud of it. We will eventually put it out on YouTube just now, I think. But we had done a lot of things together. Like we had put a lot of hours together, because it was like a one-woman show, and me, I would do all the camera work and directing and editing. And so we had put out so many hundreds of hours, just the two of us together. And then when it came to do Frankie, now she's like so committed. She's so, like I said, she's fearless. She's like the most dedicated actor I've ever worked with. And also her being the co-writer, I think she took, for me as if I look at the experience as a filmmaker, she took everything about acting a notch further, in my opinion. And she's a powerhouse. She's extremely talented. She's fearless. She's so committed. She does her own stunts. She's not afraid to get hurt, to get dirty, to do it as many times as it needs to be done. And so her being like that, I was really able to push her insane amounts. And I think what we got is so raw that I think she really, really deserves to be, discovered, because her dedication is insane.
What was it? So that brings me to another one of my questions. What was it like yeah, her performance is fantastic, and I think I might return to that shortly. But what was it like, kind of directing Dina, but also kind of you're directing Frankie in front of the camera as well? Like
Yeah,
that's a bit of a schizophrenic experience.
it is. Well, you know what? You guys should have Dina on the podcast. She would probably tell you even more. But like because Dina is there's some actors that are very they can deliver a certain standard of performance like on the fly without anything, and then you do one take and they'll give you this, and then you do another take and you direct them and they'll just do something else, but very, very, very similar. But you can really easily anticipate what this actor is going to give you. So it's really good. It saves you time, but yet it's very the creative process is like almost locked in before you even start shooting, because you rehearse or you talked about it and you know that this actor does this and it's really good, but that's what it is. Dina, it's not like that. Dina, it's like she comes in, she does something, it's good, but then she does something else and it's good, but it's completely different, has nothing to do with the first take, and then you end up doing sometimes like 17, 18 takes, because every time it just builds and it builds and it builds. And so it's I don't know, it's kind of like method. It's kind of like she needs to get somewhere that at the 17th take it's no longer Dina at all, where like I said, with a really like some other actors that have different methods, they could be still themselves, but they're just so good at controlling their skills that they're just doing the performance and then they switch. Dina was not like that. Dina was like, she's becoming Frankie, and then take 17, like she's Frankie, you know what I mean? Um, and and she would tell me sometimes it would be difficult because she would have to play this person with very violent thoughts, and then she would be in her everyday life and someone would piss her off and she would be like, oh my god, Frankie would fucking murder that person. You know what I mean? And but again, it's a very personal film for her also. Not that she's a psychopath, obviously she's not, but she would definitely channel some past experience. That's why it's a very personal and also maybe controversial movie, or sensitive movie for sure, because she would definitely use a lot of things from her own experience to just, she would say, like, would like to joke, Frankie is just like her, it's like the Mr. Hyde and she's Dr. Jekyll, like it's like the ugly alter ego that's like that can come out maybe on a dark day.
Yeah, the desert monologue in particular is very raw.
Yeah.
That was a great scene.
And you know what? So the desert monologue is definitely the thing that I'm the most proud of. And it's not something we did that. We were just with her brother who was helping with sound. It was just the three of us. There was a big storm coming, like a freaking big storm for real. And we didn't have a lot of time. It was supposed to be in the summer, but it was actually in winter in California, because to get those big storms and those like gloomy skies, it has to be like more like winter. So it was actually freezing. It was freezing. It was probably like, I don't know, like 6 degrees Celsius, something like that. Yeah. I was trying not to get the smoke out of her face, so I was trying to stay far so the camera would not pick it up. And she did something. It's pretty much one take, and then we moved on, and we didn't realize. I mean, I realized she didn't realize anything, and then we went back home, got caught in that huge storm, and then I called her and I said, "You did, in my opinion, the best performance of your life," and she had no idea, because we were so stressed out. She was like, "I'm Frankie, let's just go, let's do it, let's not." There was not any in and out of things. It was more like, "I'm Frankie, and this is it, and this is what." And then we switched to my coverage. So then she did pretty much one thing, and then we got out. It was like really fast, and she didn't realize. And then the next day, I was like, "Dina, do you remember what you did yesterday?" And she was like, "I have no clue." It was kind of a blur, and yeah, that's how raw it is. It's completely like something that's came out of her, we didn't block anything. It feels really European in that sense that I really like because I was just following and I was pulling my own focus and I was just praying I don't fuck up because I knew she was going somewhere like she was taking it further than anything.
Yeah, it's a brilliant scene. It's very much the turning point of the film many ways, without going into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we spoke a lot about Dina. She's amazing in the film, but obviously your directing is also fantastic.
Thank you.
There's a real kind of, and I only mean this complimentary. There's a real kind of grimy exploitation feel to this. I'm thinking it was reminding me of Abel Ferrara, William Lustig, Frank Henenlotter. Like, were they some of the influences? What were some of the influences on Frankie Maniac Woman?
Well, so it's funny you say that because initially back in 2017 when we started doing I Have No One, I said let's do, and that's why I even put it in the title. Eventually, I was like, Love Maniac, the Bill Lustig movie. It was like, let's make the female Maniac, the female version, because that was like we were really both drawn to that like that 80s or really like grainy, dirty serial killer movie that was like over the top in the gore, and so that was like one of the big influences. I wanted to do some. It's funny because initially we had a lot of 80s in mind, but then as like we developed the thing, we went a lot more 70s.
Yeah,
mainly because we wanted, like, Dina's a singer, right? And she loves like the soul and like funky things, like funk stuff. And then the sounds quickly became more 70s in terms of, the music. So then subconsciously then we went more with the 70s. I think, well, all of my movies have been kind of like homage to like exploitation films. I think it's the movies that, as a kid you were not allowed to see, and it's like those movies that would just draw so much curiosity, and and would be the movie that would be fearless, like you guys had the video nasties, right? In France we didn't have, because I grew up in France, we didn't have that as much, but it was still very grotesque and kind of like hard to get. Not as hard as in England, I think, but making very, very low budget movies, because this movie is extremely low budget. We made it for really nothing. It's also kind of like a no-brainer for me to really go that route and express as much as a visual creativity, but within that limitation, because it can pay off better rather than if I'm trying to go for another aesthetic that would just require things I can't do. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then I wanted the desert. I wanted to feel it like kind of at the end, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I wanted to make it like big American low budget movie, basically big low budget movie for me as like a European who doesn't see the desert like the American desert like that. So so I just wanted I can't do a lot of camera movement because of like the things I have, so I always rely on zoom. So on this movie I was going to rely on some zooms as well. I don't know. I think things came really naturally, though. It's not like, I think everything that I was doing felt appropriate for the story, because I think the story is it uses so many tropes of the past, the mask, the slasher, but it's not the way it's constructed. It's not constructed like a slasher film, but the visuals are very slasher. Like I said, the kills are very like, all those movies of the past. So
I think you go into, I think after the desert as well, it almost gets. It reminded me of Gaspar Noé's climax. It gets very almost psychedelic as Frankie's going through this. Frankie's going through this. It might be a redemption, but then it turns out that these other women maybe aren't the answer, and it gets kind of kaleidoscopic, and so it kind of moves away from the slasher
Yeah,
vibe. So and I think I was just
completely.
going to ask you, like, did you find it difficult to balance the tones because it holds together really well?
Oh, thank you. Well, I think that's going to be some people are not going to necessarily like that. I always like, whether it's for Two Witches or Traumatic, I always like to take the audience somewhere else and have them not expect what they're going to see. And I think the desert scene is, like I said, the tipping point that it just goes somewhere else. And you're like, at this point, I don't really know where it's going. Um, Also, I think it, like you said, it's maybe more drama comedy with a very violent undertone that reminds you of Gaspar Noé, which I'm a huge fan of Gaspar Noé. So just the fact that you mention it, it's like, um, but I think compared to my other two films, the way I take people to another place, I think for this film is actually my best attempt. I think personally. So hopefully people don't see it like as a negative thing. It is a shift. Um, I think it's also a shift in pacing, because the beginning is really, really, really like she kills from the moment she kills, then it's like really fast paced. Um, I wanted then to take the time. Basically, I wanted to then dive more into in my mind, I think it was better to dive into the deepest part of her psyche after all her kills than before. Because
Yeah,
after all the kills, this is where I would challenge the audience with empathy, with even making the audience kind of feel guilty that you kind of root for her after all the innocents she killed. You kind of like, I know, but now she's in the desert and I kind of want her to fuck shit up. You know what I mean? Uh, so that was, in a way, doing it in that order was making her more human. And I wanted to be fast at the beginning to catch someone's attention, and then we can go in the desert and be slower now that we know who she is and we know what's at stake. We know how she's reacting, how she's been reacting to tension and things in her life when she doesn't like things. And now you see this other chunk of her story with these women, and you're like, oh my god, now what? She's a full-fledged serial killer, and now she's put in those situations. Like, it's, I think the drama, the narrative plot, I think, was, even though there's maybe less violent, the narrative plot heightens.
yeah, it's quite. I wasn't expecting that structural shift. I really appreciated how we do. I mean, I love a good time skip anyway, and I really appreciated how you think it's going to be this origin story of this killer, and then we kind of cut to later, and she's had all these
Yeah.
kills, and now
Yeah.
it's time to focus on how she heals, how she maybe goes the other way. Yeah, really, really good, really unexpected.
Well, thank you. And I mean, I still try to, throw some big murders at the
Oh
end,
yeah,
because it's the end. I think that's the one thing about that is, like, not that I want to spoil too much, but she's a serial killer. She's interacting with a lot of people. I think the audience has like this kind of like, I hope, satisfying anticipation of the tension. Like, okay, now she's doing mushrooms. Now they're picking on her and disrespecting her. What could happen? She's
yeah.
been killing people for like 40 minutes. I think that's, hopefully the ending is satisfying, at least in the gore and the kills and the visuals about that. Hopefully, yeah.
Well, we think it certainly is, and hopefully the
Yeah,
Grimmfest audience will
absolutely.
as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm done with my initial questions. I did want to. I always like to add a little potential sneak peek if we can get it out of our guests. What is next for you, Pierre?
Oh, I don't know yet. I don't know. I have like, um Max and I, my executive producer, for Two Witches, we've been wanting to expand the sequel of Two Witches. We have so much witch stuff for the universe, so so we would love to develop that. I've been writing some other scripts, so I have some stuff in my drawer. Like I like to say, Frankie can always come back. If people connect with her, she'd be more than happy to come back. So I actually have a lot of ideas.
I think the best slashers always do, don't they?
Yeah. Exactly. We have a lot of ideas for Frankie that could, take everything up a notch and take, again, people super off guard and take them to, places that they wouldn't think Frankie would go. So yeah.
The best thing about Frankie is that the reason that she does what she does, potentially the persecution of women and body image and stuff, that's not going away.
So it's not going anywhere.
We need Frankie. We need Frankie.
Yeah.
The world needs Frankie, yeah.
Pierre, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Really happy to have you on, and really enjoyed the movie. Looking forward to see what you come with next.
Thank you so much, guys.
We hope to see you at Grimmfest if we attend on.
We'll be around, so maybe we'll both.
Okay, yeah. If we see each other for sure, Dina will be there too. So we'd love to have a chat or a beer or something.
Oh, cool, fantastic!
Yeah, all right, awesome. All right.
Okay,
well, take care, man.
Guys.
Speak to you soon.
See you, Pierre. Thank you.
And that was Pierre Tsigaridis. So next up, we're just going to throw in another interview. We were also lucky enough to get hold of a screener for a film called Landlord, which is a vampire film. Written and directed by Remington Smith, starring Adama Abramson. Unfortunately, Adama couldn't make the interview, but Remington was very insightful. This was a good film.
We love this.
We loved this a lot.
It was a nice spin on the vampire mythos. Really good.
Indeed.
Again, another kind of relevant. Frankie Maniac Woman was relevant to current social trends. This is kind of relevant to current, again, socio-political trends.
Yes, it is, absolutely. Without further ado, we'll let the man himself explain it to you. Here's Remington. And now we're going to talk about another movie showing at this year's Grimmfest on the Friday, 10th October at 3:35 p.m. It's called Landlord, and the Grimmfest website has this to say about it. The film plays like a black gender-switched Leon with a healthy dash of Blade with nods to John Carpenter, both in the prowling camera work and oppressive electronic score. And we're very much delighted to welcome writer and director of Landlord to the show, Remington Smith. Remington, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. It's very kind, the review that they wrote for it, and I'm glad they kind of picked up on some of the influences without me having to say anything about it. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, well, it's interesting, really, because I think I said we interviewed another filmmaker recently who has the film Wormtown screening at Grimmfest, and I mentioned to them that I don't look at the Grimmfest synopsis before I watch the screeners. So I like to go into things fresh. I'll avoid trailers or anything like that if I can. And I did pick up on those influences, but also some others. But I always find it interesting how they just all guns blazing on their reviews. It's quite good. But I think what I want to say is it does have a lot of influences, but it's still very much its own thing. So Landlord, we can't really talk about it without, for anyone listening to this who if we put this out before Grimmfest, so definitely go see Landlord before kind of listening to this and come back to us, because we can't really talk about it without kind of going into plot details. And it is, I think it reveals its hand in maybe around the first or second act, but it's an interesting spin on vampire fiction, basically, is what it is. So vampires are often used as a metaphor for sexuality, for disease. But here we have a white landowner feeding off his black residents. So I think my first question is, and I think I might know the answer to this question, but did you feel like this was a story that needed to be told in the current time?
Yeah, and the funny thing about the process of making Landlord, I had just done this like art house horror short called The Woods. It was dialogue free, and after I'd done that, and then I had some success with a short documentary, I felt like I was ready to work on a bigger, longer project. And so it's directly as a result of those documentary and narrative short projects that I grew up on vampire movies, and especially something like Fright Night, where Chris Sarandon plays the vampire who moves in next door, and Charlie Brewster, this kid, he has some protection as long as he's not invited in. But I didn't grow up in a house. Like, I grew up in a lot of bad apartment complexes and trailer parks. And so around like 2011, 2012, I was like, well, what happens if a vampire owns your housing? Like, what happens if they own your apartment complex? And they can come and go as they please. And so I was drawing on a very personal experience with these kinds of places combined with my interest in horror. I was like, this is just not a horror movie that I've seen done before. And that's always been a place where I've started with my usually fiction work, is just like, what's a movie I haven't seen done before in a genre I really like, especially in horror. So that was kind of the jumping off point. And I started writing this all the way back in 2014. And every year I got more and more concerned that vampires were finally going to come back. And I think we just like barely got in under the wire here. And it always kept being more relevant. It never got less relevant, which was like kind of good, but then kind of depressing as well. As it seemed like the politics of class and race in America just kind of keep getting worse and worse. So it was unfortunately something that was just constantly relevant as an American living in America.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you say so. I myself personally am from a working class background. I was brought up on what we would call an estate, which is a housing project over in the US. And it did kind of ring those strange feelings of, if my mother couldn't make rent, it's like, who is this person demanding the rent? Who is this strange figure that my mother is so afraid of? And it's very literal here. So yeah, that was felt. So correct me if I'm wrong. Did you direct a short called In These Times?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, we were coming off of a win for the script for Landlord in 2019 at Film Quest. It had won like second place for best unproduced screenplay. I had shortlisted the whole movie and was looking for feedback from people. And so January of 2020, I'm writing in my production journal, yeah, we're going to go out and raise money. And like, this is the year we're going to get the money together and shoot Landlord. And then the pandemic hit, and my wife was pregnant. And so it was a real question of how can I be creative in this moment, but then also safe. And so from that process and wanting to shoot something on 16 millimeter, especially as everything was on digital screens and we couldn't spend as much time with people, I was looking for something very tactile. And so over the course of the year, made this short dialogue-free doc of sorts about the pandemic, the Breonna Taylor protests that were happening here in Louisville, with this personal thread of like, what are we doing at home? How can we try and help out in our community while dealing with both the pandemic and the social issues? And so, yeah, In These Times was kind of, I'm always finding my work is coming out of like where I'm feeling personally, both in terms of the things that make me maybe despair and are kind of afraid for the future. But then also through the process of making the work, it's like, how do you find hope? And then hopefully, how do you share hope with other people? So, yeah.
It feels like, it feels like the events that inspired In These Times, Breonna Taylor, and to an extent George Floyd, kind of, it feels like that informs Landlord. Where I saw In These Times a couple of years ago actually, and a couple of your other pieces, and I feel like the sentiment of In These Times feeds directly into Landlord. It's kind of this essay on like Black oppression within the confines of this residential kind of horror film. Was that the intention?
Yeah, I think, way back before I thought I could even become a filmmaker in high school, I was really blown away to watch George Romero's original Dawn of the Dead. And then, just as a high school kid, really encountering art for the first time where they're using this Saturday night movie to then also say something about the world. I always thought that was fascinating. And so by the time I felt like maybe I could make movies as a career, it was always like, well, how do you say something about the world as you see it through your work, even if it is going to be with zombies or vampires? And so I think that the thing that was so remarkable about Romero's original Night of the Living Dead is like nobody comments on the main character Ben's race, but it's felt, it's palpable in this tension as Ben, as a black man in a farmhouse with white people. There's an unspoken tension, and I feel like American films, when dealing with class and race, they always, like a big Hollywood movie, everyone has to say it in a very explicit way, and I just don't find that to be the reality in the real world. And so in my documentary work, but then also in my narrative work, it's like the themes are there and there's a tension that's going to be there in power relationships, but I'm not going to tell you what the themes are. Like, hopefully that's a conversation that you have after the screening, because then you're not leaving a lot for discovery. And then I almost feel like that's like the filmmaker, like telling you how to feel and how to think about it. So I know some people who read the script, like they interacted with both the class and racial component. Others, maybe it was just a class dynamic. And I'm kind of okay with that. It's there for you, but I'm not going to tell you how to feel in a very literal, didactic way. But yeah, that is a thread throughout both the documentary and narrative work. Like, this is how I'm feeling about the world, and this is how I'm seeing it. Anybody else feel this way? Kind of thing. So.
Yeah, 100%. So, given that answer, I probably won't push. My next question is pushing you for a bit of context, but I'll probably get your feelings on it, as you've just said. This film has, obviously, this film has a monster, and it's a vampiric monster. So let's call him the Dracula of this film, and that Dracula has a Renfield, who is the kind of surface level landlord of the properties. Chris, I think the character is called. Can you tell me a little bit about Chris and how you kind of came to creating him?
It was interesting. On the first pass of the script, I kind of had the overall arc of it, and then I feel like with every screenwriter, it's always the second act that you're trying to figure out and flesh out. And it was in the process of revising that and sending it out to a lot of different reviewers, and especially as like a white guy who's got like a primarily black cast, I was trying to make sure that I was not only checking the boxes in terms of trying to get different ages and genders, but then also racial readers' viewpoints on how it was kind of evolving. And I realized that Christopher, who's like the apartment manager, and then John is the vampire who actually owns it as the landlord. I realized that pairing almost became this like dark mirror for our heroes, the kid Alex, who's taken under the wing of our bounty hunter, played by Adama. And under the wrong kind of influence, somebody who is seeking a path forward could fall under the spell of somebody who's going to help them in a constructive way or lead them in a destructive way. And so it's through the revision process that I really found that kind of dark mirror, and then like developed that further, this dynamic between the two. And I definitely sought counsel on like, how do we treat this dynamic? Because it is like racially or class-wise, you're going to have people who capitulate with the people in power, who think that, I can curry favor if I buddy up with the monster. And I don't think that consistently shown to be borne out in social movements and in real life, etc. Like, you really need to choose your alliances. So yeah, without saying too much more. But it was now that I'm on the back end of this and I'm trying to think of the next project idea and develop it, it's reminding me that the writing process was really enjoyable, and like, thank God, because like it just takes so long to make a movie, and if you're writing, directing, and producing, you better love it all. And so I was really fortunate to have a lot of feedback from reviewers to help guide me.
Great. Let's talk about Dharma, because she's a presence in the film, and there's kind of a physicality to her performance. I think, me personally, it was spending those first two acts trying to figure out how her kind of skill set would match up against the landlord, and then kind of that comes together a bit in the third act. But I think one of my favorite scenes in the film, and I won't go into too much detail, but she kind of turns into a bit of a force of nature. She goes a bit Michael Myers on some bad guys, and you've got that again, that thumping Joe Stockton score in the background. It's a bit Carpenter, and I don't think in the Grimmfest review with lists all your references, I don't think Carpenter's in there. Was that one of the influences?
It definitely, like, John Carpenter's The Fog was a big visual reference. Like, I had a lot of stills on set on my laptop that we were referring to. So earlier you mentioned Council Estates. When I saw Andrea Arnold's Fish Tank, I was like, how is this 13-year-old girl, like, how is this my life? Like, how did they capture this? Like, other than the dynamic with Michael Fassbender, that anger and the just trying to get out, etc. I was like, Fish Tank was my teen years, and the Florida Project was my preteen years. So Andrea Arnold's Fish Tank was a big influence visually for all the day stuff. At night, it was a lot of stills from John Carpenter's The Fog, especially that sequence towards the climax of the second act, as well as No Country for Old Men. There was a lot of visual references on set for those two. And it was like deciding, like, when do we kind of want to lean into those kinds of moments? And then 20 Days Later, the In the House in the Heartbeat sequence was actually like a more direct reference to that kind of climax, because I saw that in junior year of high school, and it is just it's interesting. I'm citing a lot of like high school references. It was just like that John Murphy score and that kind of Cillian Murphy running amok throughout that mansion was a big visual influence. So
yes, definitely a formative moment in horror cinema, and Fish Tank is a tough watch for a few reasons.
Yeah. One of my favorite movies, though. So
yeah.
It's like John Carpenter's The Fog and Fish Tank. That was my pitch to people. It was like, that's what we're trying to make with Landlord and a dash of maybe No Country for Old Men. So yeah,
that's a hell of a pitch.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Cohen Cooper? Him and Adama seem to have like really great chemistry.
Oh, it was exactly the kind of dynamic that I'd hoped for, because when this bounty hunter takes this kid under her wing, I always imagine it like not as like a motherly figure, but almost like an older sister or an aunt who's not going to give you any leeway. And so definitely between takes, like Cohen, who plays Alex, he was messing with her and cracking jokes, and they're labbed up for some like long shots. And so like I was hearing their conversation as they're like getting ready for a scene, and he's like bothering her a little bit, and then she's like bothering him back. And so it was like the right kind of chemistry, because I didn't want to push it too hard and to make feel like, as our female lead in the movie, that like she has to become a mother character. Like I wanted a little different dynamic. And especially just seeing the kinds of relationships that, older sisters and aunts will have with their like siblings and nephews. Like it's not exactly the way a mom is going to approach it. It's more that sibling, as an older sibling, bothering younger siblings, that I wanted to bring it out. And so God love them. And Cohen really brought it. And so we were really fortunate. I mean, if we weren't able to get our three leads at the time, also William McKinney, who played John the vampire, this film doesn't work, and we would have been delayed. So we got incredibly lucky to have that as our primary core, and then the rest we were able to get local actors for the supporting roles. So especially like Lance Gerard for Christopher, and then J. Barrett Cooper as Sheriff Connor. It was just like, oh, thank God. Like we got the people who I didn't really have to. They say 90% of directing is casting, and that was totally true, because it didn't take a lot to get where we needed to be. Like everyone kind of got who they were supposed to be in those moments. So,
right, yeah, it's a great cast. It's bringing us. I want to bring us back just to briefly to the monster, John. There's a very interesting scene, and talking about the viewer's interpretation versus your interpretation when you were writing it. There's a very interesting scene involving a projector and our monster, and for me, I thought it was quite conflicting. So I guess my question to you is, do you have sympathy for your monster?
I in the process of writing it, I felt like the only way into each of the characters was finding a bit of myself in them. And so it was interesting to feel like, both John and Adama playing the bounty hunter, they could be this like darker reflections of like, if you decide the only person that matters is you and your survival, then it could lead into these directions. Because of the way I grew up, like I felt like there was a certain level of selfishness, and maybe this is just required for all kids to grow up and leave the house. But I think in particular, if you're growing up really poor under dire circumstances, you really kind of have to have your fists up and the shields up to be like, I'm getting the hell out of here and nobody's going to stop me. And in retrospect, it maybe feels a little cold. And so it was like tapping into a little bit of that sensibility. And in particular with John, though, trying to figure out villains, like I was just going over in my head, like what makes, people like Hans Gruber, Anton Chigurh, what makes these characters interesting? And it's just like, you can't just make them an empty baddie. Like you have to find what is relatable, tangible, and therefore in a way kind of human about them. And so with John, I mean, that scene with the projector was very early on, because like a vampire could just turn into a kind of ubermensch, superhuman character, and then you have no connection to them whatsoever. And I was just like, well, like the most human thing would be to have not to long for the one thing you can't have as a vampire. And so that projector scene, for years, I had it specifically visually laid out, and it's so funny because these like probably the most important scenes in the movie are the most quiet. They're not the most spectacular visually with like special effects and pyrotechnics. And so they were easy to set up, and we would just knock them out so easily and so quietly with the vibe that I wanted. And then I was like, oh no, I want to hold on to this moment because we're about to be over. But like, also what a blessing to finally be in this moment, to be doing this scene finally. And we have exactly the amount of time to do it and do it the exact right way. And I was just like, oh, thank God we fought for like 25 days and to bring these moments out, because otherwise I think then it could just be any other horror film. And that was not what I was interested in. I was just like, what's going to make it unique? And that projector scene, every time I gave the script out for people to read, that was the scene everyone commented on. And so I was like, that's something that is non-negotiable, has to be in the movie one way or another. And thankfully it's still borne out as a favorite scene for folks.
Yes, it might be my favorite scene. That and Adama taking out all the guys, that was pretty cool. But I've got to go for the arty scene first.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about the shoot in the location. It's a very economic film. Was it an easy shoot?
I would say overall it was, because we were shooting local, but anybody who's trying to make their first feature, I think the one thing that I was not prepared for after years of just osmosis of being interested in the making of movies before I even started making movies, like I was just raised on the making of featurettes on DVDs and was just fascinated and would be like pausing to see what's the setup there, what are they doing? So to finally like funnel all of that energy into a feature where like every little trick, every little director commentary hack, like I was going back to like the commentary for Logan, like how did they do this shot of the kid driving and Mangold reveals the little trick on how to make a kid look like he's driving a car. I was like, literally, I'm going to use that. But the one thing that I was not prepared for is filmmakers don't talk about the pressure to nail logistics consistently for 25 days versus a short where it's only like 2 or 3 days. So I think that was the biggest problem, was just like, I woke up every morning going, oh my God, okay, like we could do this. And then I kept thinking like the only way is through. But I was very fortunate to have co-producers Madeline Weiner and Abby Van Andel. So during the day when we were shooting, God love them, they were setting up for the RVs to get to the next location and like there'd be no way that we could have made it without them. So delegation and delegating to get shit done, people who are kind, was crucial. But otherwise, like, the church where we did the big, climax, it was 5 minutes door to door from my house, because the church knew me because I've been doing Meals on Wheels since the pandemic. And I told them about my documentary work. I'm like, look, there's some violence. I'm going to be very forthright. But it's based on like this history of violence that I'm trying to get at as like a social commentary horror movie. So many other churches told us no. And then God love them, this one was like, yeah, sure. Same with the apartment complex that we shot at. It was only like 10 minutes around the corner from my house. And they said yes, because we kept a very small footprint. We maybe had a crew of 20 most days. And they just so happened to have like a bingo hall in the parking lot that we could use for holding for all our cast and crew. And because we were able to maintain a small footprint, I made the pitch personally. It's like, I live and work here. We're going to do everything we can not to interfere with folks. They gave us the run of the whole place as an apartment complex of 4 buildings where people are living and sleeping. And it was our back lot for 3 weeks. So I think everything that I had absorbed from Romero shooting in Pittsburgh, Robert Rodriguez talking a lot about filming in places that aren't super populated with other filmmakers, it makes people more amenable. And so we got really lucky with that. And the highlight of the shoot on the locations was we were filming one of the last things in the final week, so week 5, and William, playing John, as we're waiting for a setup, he was just like, man, the locations on this have been killer. And I was like, yes. Like, oh, thank God. Because Christopher McQuarrie, he had said, I think during the rollout of Mission Impossible Fallout, he said the only times he's really been upset with a scene is he felt like it was when he picked the wrong location that didn't feel cinematic. And people have pointed out in my work after the fact, and I think it's because I move so much, place is always a big feature in anything that I'm making. And so for years, I had been driving around Louisville trying to find the right places that felt right, and could also serve us in production ways too, like making sure we have an apartment complex that already had streetlights in the center that we could kind of piggyback off of, so we're not bringing in like a cherry picker ourselves and things like that. And so thank God it really worked out for us. So shoot local, make your movies at home where people know and love you, and you'll get a lot more bang for your buck.
Yeah, and shoot local and buy physical media, folks, because all those making of featurettes and commentaries, which we're losing, they'll help you be a stronger filmmaker.
Yeah.
Great info about the location. I think that if, especially in a kind of single location film, almost single location film like yours, the location is the identity of the film. The mall in Dawn of the Dead, or like, what was in other films, like, I can't think of another one, but I was thinking of Chris McQuarrie's films, and there's loads of locations in them. 3 hours of locations in each film. But yeah, that housing project is the identity of Landlord, so it has to be right, and it's a great location. Okay, I think I'm just about done with my question. I've got a very simple one to finish us off. What is your favorite vampire movie?
Oh shit. Favorite vampire movie.
That's such a hard question.
I thought the other ones that I asked were quite difficult, but
well, they were insightful, obviously. But I mean, there are so many good ones. Like, I mean, obviously, like you were talking earlier about Fright Night being an influence, which it clearly was. It's evident. I particularly like, just as a horror vampire nerd, the glowing crucifixes. It took me right, but I don't know how many movies that's been in, but it always reminds me of Salem's Lot.
Yeah, it was great.
I had not seen Salem's Lot, but I was 14 when I read Salem's Lot, and that image of Callahan in this dark room with the glowing cross, I was like, if I can, like, once I decided to become a filmmaker, I was like, that's a really interesting image. I wonder if there's a project, and that was early in the script. So that is totally a shout out to Salem's Lot.
Ah, cool. You know what?
So
to this day, I read it about a similar age to you, and Salem's Lot is still the scariest book I've ever read.
I mean, it is amazing how he gets at like the feeling of a whole town. So like the macro and the micro too is really impressive. And so it wasn't until years later that I actually got a chance to see the Tobe Hooper movie. So Stephen King was an early influence. Okay, favorite vampire movie. I'm just gonna say a handful of favorite vampire movies, and especially.
Oh, okay.
I think just because of how formative it was, like Fright Night has to be up there. My parents had me when they were like 20, and so they're watching all these 80s horror movies and especially 80s horror comedy. So it's like that and The Lost Boys were very formative. And then more recently, the same director who did the Interview with the Vampire then did Byzantium.
Oh yeah, that's a great film.
Saoirse Ronan, and I find myself revisiting that pretty often. So, and then one of the more interesting Draculas, the Monster Squad is what got me started in horror. I was maybe 5 years old.
Yeah,
it's like the Goonies versus Dracula. And all of a sudden the actor's name escapes me, but the guy who plays Dracula, he's playing it in an uncanny way. He's Duncan
Regehr, I think his name
Yes,
is.
Thank you.
He's great, yeah.
Because he just played it really different, and I think that was definitely a lodestar for us for Landlord, because Chris Sarandon plays it in Fright Night. Of course, once you get older, you're like, oh man, he is just so suave and is going to get that girl because he is so funny and sexy. So there's that vampire, and then there's almost like Duncan's version is like Anton Chigurh, like some humanity over the years has been lost, and now there is just this like weird intensity once that humanity has been stripped away. So yeah, if people listening to your podcast still haven't seen the Monster Squad, I mean, that kind of kickstarted so much of my love of genre, and then eventually to make something like this where you have a kid who's going to go up against a vampire. Like that was a direct relationship as well with Landlord. So.
Oh, great. Yeah. All of those listeners, go watch all of those films multiple times. Okay. I think I'm done with my questions now. Gaz, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, Remington, it's been fantastic speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much again for coming on the show.
And I hope I didn't ramble too much. And I just hope, if nothing else, I hope this encourages people, A, check out the movie, but then B, like once you watch the movie, you go, okay, I can make a movie. Like I can make a feature. If nothing else, after like finishing this thing, it's just like everyone just needs to go and do it, and don't wait on people to give you permission. So I hope that this encourages other people to make their own movies. So.
That's a great sentiment to finish on. Thank you, Remington.
Yeah. Landlord, ladies and gentlemen, we recommend it very highly. So, because of the length of time that Grimmfest has been on, we have been, Ken and I, before. And there's a lot of films on, or have been on, that you might have heard of in the past. And we want to talk about some of our favourites over the years. So what have you got, Ken, that you've enjoyed at Grimmfest?
Well, I've got loads because I didn't understand the assignment. You asked me to pick some of my favourites.
I did.
And I interpreted that as go through every single year and pick a favourite.
Right.
But once I realised I was doing the wrong thing, I stopped at 2017.
All right.
So I'm going to rattle through them.
Right, list them all. Fuck it.
So I have to put 2024 Black Cab because I went to the Q&A with Nick Frost.
Oh, the Nick Frost one.
Nick Frost is one of my heroes. Suitable Flesh 2023, Joe Lynch, Heather Graham, Body Swap, Lovecraftian.
Excellent, Barbara Crampton again.
Yeah. The Beta Test, because I'm a huge fan of Jim Cummings, watch everything that he's ever done, including Wolf of Snow Hollow for spooky season. The Deep House, which is Bastillo, the people that made Inside.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's haunted house. Yeah, it's a haunted house horror movie. Underwater, the scuba diving.
Oh, cool. All right, yeah.
The Sadness, that's the one where someone gets skull fucked.
Oh, that's the one that's basically the comic crossed, isn't it?
Yes.
Fucking hell,
Yes.
that was incredible.
And I don't know if we've mentioned this before on the podcast, but the guy that made The Sadness is making a Crossed film.
Oh, well, you would. That's perfect. Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's already shown us what hideous things he can do.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
2020, 12-hour shift, really great kind of single location, nurse doing overtime, but it's a bit dodgy, it's a bit of a black. That stars Angela Bettis of May fame, the film May.
I haven't seen May.
Really? Yeah, Lucky McKee or Mick Garris? I think it's Lucky McKee. May's fantastic.
All right.
2019, The Wretched.
The Wretched, that's with the witch.
Yeah, it's good hag horror.
Good hag one, yeah.
Yeah. 2018, one of my personal favourite horror films of all time, Summer of '84.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, so that is basically what if it was a Goonies-style adventure where kids try and solve a serial killer mystery, but they fuck with the wrong serial killer.
Oh, that sounds mint.
It's incredibly
That
dark.
sounds incredible.
And then 2017, Better Watch Out.
I only watched that last year for the first time. Great Christmas horror film.
Great Christmas horror film. Great twist.
Yeah.
My only criticism is because it's a certain age rating, they do the paint can in the face from Home Alone, but they can't show it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That had one of the most slappable antagonists of all time, that film.
100%, yeah.
Hated that kid. Sorry, that kid. Right, I'll go through some of mine then, shall I?
Yeah.
I've not written the years down because I'm shit.
We're both shit in this.
I know, we've done badly. Well, we're going to talk a bit more at length about American Mary. But that is one. That's one of my favourites of all time. That's just such a great film. I also really enjoyed the Soska Sisters Rabid, which we talked about in another life, didn't we? In a different show a long time ago.
CM Punk's in that. You told me.
CM Punk is in it. Yeah, he is. The Revenant. That was a really old one.
Oh,
that must be good 10 years ago. That one.
The Revenant. It's not the Leonardo DiCaprio Revenant.
No, that's an entirely different film.
Is it the one
basically comes back as like a zombie?
Yeah, he does, and it's
like a black comedy.
It is a black comedy, and it's I only know I only know the guy from because he was also in Heroes season.
He was in
2.
Heroes, yeah.
Yeah. That's a funny film. That.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Tigers Are Not Afraid.
Oh, that film is amazing.
Yeah. There was one last year, I think it was Succubus, that I really enjoyed. About a literal succubus on social media. That was really fun.
That was good.
Harpoon.
I've seen that.
Harpoon was great.
Shark?
No, actually, no. It's a bit like Very Bad Things.
Oh, I love
it's
that film.
3 people getting not marooned, like stuck on a ship, and they've got no food or water, and it's a very, very black survival comedy.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed Harpoon. I've got Deathgasm. Everybody loves Deathgasm.
I love Deathgasm.
I can't say it. Deathgasm.
There's a Deathgasm 2 coming, if I
believe there is.
Yeah.
And my last one, The Witch in the Window by Andy Mitten.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that film. I remember I hadn't seen it. I didn't see it at the festival. I saw it afterwards. I've bought it on DVD. I read a review of it by Kim Newman, famed critic Kim Newman, and author of the Anno Dracula series of books, if anyone's interested, which are great.
Love to get Kim as a guest.
I'd love to get Kim as a guest. He created Dr. Terror, the 1990s horror host on BBC Two.
He made me want to be a film journalist.
Did he?
So, of course, I'm not a film journalist.
Christ
I'm
almighty.
just a podcaster.
Yeah, you are. This is absolute journalism. Don't you sell yourself short. So he wrote a review of that, and he said it had one of the most chilling scenes in recent years or something. I know I'm not going to ruin it for anyone, but I specifically watched it for that and can confirm. But all the hairs on my back of my neck stood up at this particular reveal in The Witch in the Window, and it's also a very. It's just a nice film in a way about the bonding of my father and son. I think the chemistry between the two leads is very realistic and very natural. So yeah, there you go. Great stuff.
Watch all those films.
Watch all those films that we both listed. I mean, there's films that Ken's listed that I haven't seen, so I'm going to watch them as well. American Mary.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this a bit.
Why did you pick this? Why did you want to pick this?
Well, partly because I realised that the screeners that we got, and we only got like 3. None of the filmmakers are women. And I thought it was a good idea to represent that a bit more, considering as well, like they've had 3 films on, 3 that I know of, The Rabid, Dead Hooker in a Trunk, and American Mary, American Mary, I think, is just an important horror film.
It really is. And I realised something when I was rewatching it and taking my notes. It predates Revenge, Coralie Fajar's Revenge.
It does.
By about 5 years. And that film, you know, quite rightly is recognised as a revolutionary film in the depiction of rape and the aftermath of rape, because previously in horror cinema, rape was often kind of, it's just used as like a narrative, shock value. You always see the rape in a very graphic manner, and then I mean, think of I Spit on Your Grave. It's an iconic horror film, but it's incredibly exploitative. And you know what? You get to a certain age as a horror fan, especially if you grew up in like the 80s, and you're like, I don't want to see women getting raped anymore. I don't want to see men getting raped. I don't want to see anyone getting raped.
I mean, I'd argue that you probably never wanted to see that.
Never,
happen. But I mean, it gets to a point where you're like, okay, again. Why is this in it again? It doesn't need to be in a horror film every fucking time.
Exactly. And I think Coralie Fajar's Revenge was maybe the catalyst that caught that, and kind of the Me Too movement and all that stuff, kind of Hollywood kind of dialed back on the, let's think about the aftermath, but 5 years before that, the Soskas did it with American Mary. It's not, we don't really see what really happens to Mary in any sort of graphic way. We only see the aftermath. No,
it's shot in a similar way to the one in Revenge, isn't it? Where you kind of, it lingers on their faces, I think. And I mean, you can see what's happening, but it's not, there's no nudity or
yeah, I can only assume, being a man, that it's a female, like POV, like it's a female depiction of that experience. But yeah, it's not. We don't linger on the act itself. The whole the wraparound is. So American Mary's promising med student Mary, played by the legendary Catherine Isabel.
Yep.
The role was apparently written for her. I think the Oscars wrote it for her.
Oh, right. Cool.
She's invited to a party with a bunch of doctors. You can guess what happens.
Yeah.
But instead of kind of the film being about her, I mean, it is to an extent, but instead of the film being about her trauma, it's about how she kind of turns it around on her.
Yeah, and it becomes kind of empowered by it.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, it's not a new film by any means, but also I don't want to spoil it. However, as we say in every episode, if we're talking about a film, probably watch it first before you listen to us banging on about
Pause,
it. Watch, come back. Yeah. But yeah, she takes spectacular revenge on the perpetrator of this heinous act.
Spectacular and extended revenge.
Yeah, it doesn't end anytime soon. It's an extreme horror for all intents and purposes. It was massively inspired by Hellraiser.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, you can see that in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few things I clocked when I rewatched this the other night, just because I knew we were going to talk about it. So we've got Catherine Isabel, Tristan Risk, who's in many of their films. She plays Beatrice, who essentially has had surgery to look like Betty Boop.
Yeah.
And talks like Betty Boop.
Yeah.
And is a great character. Very, very funny. Mary Mason is Mary's name, which is alliterative. Yeah, it's like Peter Parker.
Like a superhero name,
yeah. Well, they're big comic book fans. They've written Black Widow, and they wrote a story in the Avengers Halloween special, which I've got a copy of somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Have I got a DC one recently that the Oscars have done?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Well, I know that they're writing for the Rippaverse, which is something they're involved with now, which is a comic company. I've not read any of it, but that's what they're doing right now.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, they wrote... Well, actually, weirdly, I kind of bottled it. I had a ticket to go and see Rabid when it came out at Grimmfest, which I didn't do. I was meant to go with a friend, and my friend bailed, and then I kind of didn't want to go by myself, because it was a big deal of like meeting Jen and Sylvia Soska.
Yeah, like, you don't want to be a weird loser.
No, I felt weird about it, so I didn't go. But I pre-bought issue 1 of their Black Widow comic and the Avengers Halloween special because I was going to ask him to sign it. So I got the Black Widow one from my kid, and I was going to keep the Halloween one. I still got the comics, but I didn't meet them, so I didn't get them to sign it. So, ladies, if you're ever in town in in Manchester, UK again, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also noticed. I don't know whether this. I assume this was intentional. After the act has happened to Mary, she wanders into her apartment in a daze, clearly traumatized. And the music that plays reminded me of when Selena Kyle walks into Batman Returns. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be intentional by them as comic fans, right?
Yeah.
And then she chucks all the shit off the table, like as obviously Selena starts trashing things. And
yeah, that's a good pull. That's cool.
I'm sure that was intentional, but I didn't pick up on it the first time around.
I really like the body modification stuff in this. So I think a lot of it was inspired, or they were inspired to kind of write this after kind of stumbling into the body modification.
I believe it was praised for being quite accurate in a lot of ways.
So they used the body mod community as consultants, and a lot of the people in the film. There's great special effects, of which the community informed on, but a lot of the people in the film as well are actual, not special effects there.
Yeah, well, actually, I think this guy, Tristan Risk's partner, he's called Burns the Dragon. He's like a performer.
Yeah.
I think he's the guy in it with the split tongue, and he's got like...
the bumps.
The bumps, yeah, like horns, the dermal implants to create a horn effect. Yeah. In the film, he's the guy who has ruined his cock after surgery by wanking.
Oh.
About that, Burns. Hey. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you're right. I believe that I don't know how many other people in that were involved in that, in the real world side of that things, but it certainly was part of it.
Yeah, and you feel that, it's always, and I think to an extent, you only really get this in horror, exploring these kind of other worlds that these alternative worlds that in reality, we would kind of think is a bit skeezy, a bit weird. But then the Soskas present it as there's just a community of people. It's kind of like Nightbreed.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Yeah.
Yeah. In that, they're monsters, but I'm not saying body mod people are monsters.
No.
But in Nightbreed, the premise is they are this outcast demographic.
Very misunderstood.
Yeah, very misunderstood. And the thing that I like about Nightbreed, which I also like about American Mary, is they're taken on their own terms. And when he goes into Meridian, yeah, they are kind of monsters because they're eating people and they're doing horrible things and they look horrible, but it doesn't mean they're evil. It doesn't mean they're bad.
No, I agree.
But like in American Mary, you enter into this world, and it's not fetishized and it's not kind of twisted. It's just, this is it. This is these people.
Yeah, and I think it's relatable for that reason as well. If you've ever been into any kind of alternatives you've seen in your life, whether it's music, like if you're a metalhead, or you like horror films, because people are vilified for liking horror films all the time. It gets demonized in the press. If you're a video game player, I mean, how often does that get blamed for anything?
Yeah. And
for the most part, it's just communities of people wanting to, meet other like-minded people. No one's a bother to anyone.
Yeah. And it's interesting that I think the key part about American Mary's narrative is after this act, obviously she can't practice medicine anymore. So she does kind of under the table work for this community. So she kind of, she retreats, but she goes under the wing of this kind of alternative, which is what we often do.
Yeah.
We drift to the people that can kind of help us get past whatever.
Yeah.
I
noticed as well, there's a bit where Mary she's doing some surgery and she's got like a red surgical robe on, like Dead Ringers.
Yeah,
Which they also did in Rabid, because they're obviously, Rabid's a David Cronenberg film.
Yeah,
and they're big David Cronenberg fans.
All of their films are body horror in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's
Even See No Evil 2, starring WWE's Kane.
Yeah, Glenn Jacobs himself.
Yeah, I don't call him Glenn Jacobs.
That's his name.
Yeah,
he's a mayor now. He doesn't chokeslam people anymore.
I bet he does.
Yeah. I think he did. You know what? I'm sure I saw a video of him doing that in his mayor suit at some point.
He still looks great.
He chokeslam someone through a table or something. Yeah. Oh yeah, he does that Diamond Dallas Page yoga thing.
Diamond Dallas Page yoga thing.
You know, Diamond Dallas Page is the wrestler, right? Yeah, for years he's been getting all the wrestlers whose bodies have had it a bit with years of taking bumps, and he kind of sorts them all out with his yoga retreat.
Whoa!
Yeah, he gets people bodies working again. And I believe, I'm sure I saw something on social media recently where, all right, Kane, not Glenn Jacobs, was looking great at 50 odd because he's been working out and watching his carbs with working out with DDP. Yeah, it's DDP. Yeah,
I hate it. Everyone copied that. RVD copied that as well. Anyway. Have you ever read The Nail by Steve Niles?
No.
So, is it Steve Niles? Oh, I think it's a collaboration between Steve Niles and Rob Zombie, and it's called The Nail, and it's basically about a big muscly wrestler, rocker, metal dude, versus a bunch of like a demonic cult of like monsters, and the guy.
His wrestler name is The Nail.
He's called The Nail, yeah.
Cool.
And he's based on his inspiration is Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh, wow.
Because Diamond Dallas Page is in a couple of Rob Zombie films.
Is he?
Yeah.
I think he is, yeah. I think I remember that deep in the dark recess of my mind somewhere.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that sums it up for American Made for me.
Yeah. We wanted to make this brief because it's a jam-packed episode.
Yeah, we've got to see the interviews alone for this big episode are going to be like an hour and a half, and we know people get bored of listening to us talk at the best of times.
Yeah.
So
I did have one thing.
I beg your pardon.
Catherine Isabel, a bit of trivia. Catherine Isabel, in true method style, did medical studies for the role.
Did she?
She even managed to suture a chicken. Apparently.
Did she? Which actually she does in the film. Well, turkeys, isn't it?
Yeah.
So she didn't actually body mod any individuals.
No, I mean we think so.
Well, I mean, she might, and we might just not know. Yeah. So Catherine Isabel, if you're listening to this, let us know if you've ever done any body modification surgery on any human beings. Thanks.
Yeah. So my point from this is basically American Mary walked so revenge could run.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. I mean, I think I love them both. I own them both. But yeah, I think there's something about American Mary, I guess, being a horror guy and the fact that it's so obviously influenced by Hellraiser, the way it goes is closer to my heart than Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
But Revenge is fucking excellent either way.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to tell you how good Coralie Fargiar is because, I mean, everyone has seen The Substance now.
Everyone on the planet has seen The Substance.
On the planet. So, right, if you like The Substance, go and watch Revenge, her film before that, and go and watch American Mary because it's fucking great.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we'll turn our attention to our final interview. We were, again, lucky enough to get a screener for this. It's a pretty grisly film.
Yeah.
About worms.
Wormies in eyes.
Worms in eyes. There's worms coming out of people. There's melting people and worms in the melty bits. And
people getting vibrated.
Oh, and that's not as fun as it sounds.
No.
I will say this, and we can't spoil it, and I think we managed to avoid spoilers in the interview. This, for me, this film features one of the most genuinely distressing surgery scenes that I've seen in any film. And we've just talked about American Mary. You know, I've seen a lot of surgery in a lot of films.
Yeah.
And one of this really made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But anyway, onto the interview, and our final interview is about a movie called Wormtown by Sergio Pinheiro, and also writer-producer Andy Myers. We'll leave you with those guys. We'll be back in a week or two for our Halloween special, so stay tuned. There's a competition coming. You can win a hat.
Is there?
Yeah, there is.
You didn't tell me.
Well, there's no point in telling you because you don't want a hat. You don't wear hats.
I kind of do. I don't, but I'd like to have one.
Well, there's only two in existence. So
okay.
we can't both have one and then there'd be a prize.
Okay.
No, I'm going to give both of them away. So there might be a short quiz or something, so keep your ears peeled if that's the thing. Please visit Grimmfest, enjoy, and we'll be back soon. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye. If you're around Grimmfest on Sunday, the 12th of October, you can watch a movie called Wormtown, which is showing at 5:35 p.m. I'll read a bit from the Grimmfest website. Which would you rather face? Parasitic mind-controlling worms or patriarchal Christian fundamentalism? How about both at the same time? Balancing socio-political satire with gross-out body horror, Wormtown plays like Robert E. Heinlein's The Puppet Masters reimagined by Margaret Atwood, with just a pinch of classic vampire lore and a sly tip of the hat to Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. And it's now our pleasure to welcome to the show director of Wormtown, Sergio Pinheiro, and writer-producer Andy Myers. Gentlemen, welcome to Live from Manchester Morgue. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Hey guys, it's interesting because I never tried to read the synopses of the Grimmfest stuff before I watch the screeners, so it's interesting hearing that now. It's very. I think I was going to enter into the questions by saying Wormtown is a bit of a mashup. It's a lot of kind of genres and kind of plot threads. It's trying to do a lot of things, and it succeeds in all of them. So it's kind of a post-apocalypse or a post-event film. It's a viral horror. It's kind of a cult movie. It's kind of a socio-political narrative, and yeah, I probably didn't put it as succinctly as the Grimmfest synopsis, but which makes it sound a bit mad, but it's not actually. It all holds together, and it's kind of an intimate look at a different kind of apocalypse. I think coming into my first question is that along with all those things that it's about Wormtown is about the divisions that appear during a crisis situation. So I guess the obvious question is, in expanding from the original short, was it kind of COVID and the current political climate that made you want to kind of expand this out?
I'll let Andy start with the sort of origins of everything, and then we can kind of, go ahead.
Yeah, because you went right for the origins of this. Originally, I wrote a short called Quarantine in January 2020, before COVID had hit the States. It was about this character named Jess, who ends up in the final version. And she lives on Main Street in Ashland in a defunct storefront that's covered in plastic from ceiling to floor. And we were set to shoot in March 2020, and obviously that did not happen. And as we were sort of emerging from COVID, I looked back and I said, nothing from that scares me anymore. Like, what is scary anymore? And it was the people. It was kind of the human nature that was exposed during that. So in 2021, I wrote a new short with Jess, but I had this key element, which was the idea of the rancher. So in the film and in the short, it's this guy who is infested by these flesh-eating mind control worms, but he truly believes that it's in the best interest of everyone to spread these to as many people as possible, and further the goal of everyone should have these worms. He loves the worms, and that kind of unlocked everything for me, because I grew up a very devout Mormon. I grew up in Utah County, where you've got an incredibly dense concentration of devout Mormonism, and I actually was a missionary for 2 years, from age 19 to 21. So looking back at that as a former Mormon, I saw myself in that rancher character of someone who was so sure of his own ideology, and that boundaries didn't matter. He would knock on every door to spread this gospel of the worms. And so I that's what the short was around. My good friend Dan Gvozden directed that. And then when Dan had to drop from the feature for family and scheduling reasons, and Serge came on board, Serge brought a lot of ideas into this, and we had 2 months to rewrite it to incorporate all of his amazing ideas. Serge, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'd originally met Andy and Good Deed, the company he works for, uh, through the other producer that works at Good Deed, Phil Garrett, because we had a mutual friend. I was going to a film festival in Ohio, and that mutual friend who I can say you guys probably recognize, it's Mark Pellington, who directed Mothman Prophecies and Arlington Road, a lot of
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
the
great.
music videos. Yeah, he's part of the original crop of music video directors out of MTV. So I met him many years ago and done some work with him on a lot of different things, including music videos, as well as like some features and short films. And he knew I was going to this festival, and he said, "Hey, when you get out there, reach out to Phil. His company, I think, is doing some stuff in what that could very well line up with what you're looking for and you're looking to do." And so I did, and we met up at the festival, had a great time. I actually gave him a script for a different project, and he took it to Good Deed, and they really liked it and started working with me on developing it. And then when the strikes happened, we had to kind of push that all off. And then uh, the subject of Wormtown came in, and they already had it in the pipeline, had dates scheduled to shoot. And I'd kind of been hearing about it for a little while already because they were getting ready to do it. And so while I was working on my script with them, they were talking about getting ready to shoot. And then suddenly Phil calls me and he says, "Hey, we're actually in need of a director, and would you be interested?" And I said no. because it was actually like not in my wheelhouse. Like I felt like it was so outside of my uh, what I'd always want. Like the project that I brought to them was very different. It's very much like a Twilight Zone episode, supernatural, very cerebral, like type of like very dialogue driven. It's very much like a Twilight Zone episode, the classic Twilight Zone episodes. And this felt so much different than anything that I certainly would never have come up with the idea myself. And they just, I think when I started talking about it, I was saying no without explicitly saying no. And they just kept taking that as just keep talking to him about the movie. And then
Grinding you
finally, yeah,
Fine.
it just, and I kept thinking about it. The thing about it is that the concept was always really cool. And so when I saw the opportunity, it stuck in my head, and I kept thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this, or wouldn't it be cool if that happened? And I remember calling Mark and telling him like, "Hey, they actually asked me to do this movie." And he says, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" I said, I told him no. And can we swear on this?
Oh, of
Absolutely,
course.
100%.
Okay. So he was quiet for like a second, and then he goes, "Do the fucking movie. Seriously, do the fucking movie. Shut up and just do the movie." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." He's like, "Yeah, they're all like it's a movie. Do it. Like as long as it's not so far outside of where you were thinking that it's like that you would be actively doing bad harm to the movie, then don't. Like if it's anything you're interested in." So I essentially like went back to Andy and Phil, and I just had like a very all cards on the table meeting with them, and I said, "Look, I think there is actually quite a lot of great stuff in here. I feel like some things that I would love to do with this in order to really amp up certain aspects. And that part of it being like, I really would love to explore more of the characters and the world and the dynamics and the relationships with these people and really delve into these things and really give it like a heart." That I think Andy had all the seeds for in there already. And it's just like, let's just bring that up. And then, yes, we'll have these insane worm infestation moments going on, but around it, it's very much wrapped around these dynamics. And to his credit and to my appreciation, like he was very down to do all of the things. And, and that just kind of started that sprint of us talking about the script, talking about what we should do, planning for it. He would go off and write it, and then send me new stuff, and we just kept plowing through as we go. I think probably describes it right, Andy. Did I miss anything?
Absolutely. I think it was really fortunate that all of his ideas, or I mean, you might say demands, but all of his ideas were good ones, and really added to everything. So, much to Serge's credit, we were in the right direction and not taking no for an answer.
It's always good to persevere. We love the squirmy worm horror, but we'll kind of get to that later, because it's those complex character dynamics that you mentioned which really kind of makes everything work. I think one of my personal favorite things about the film is this kind of the contrast between the rivalry of the two factions. For all intents and purposes, let's call them a worm cult, because it's really cool to say that. The worm cult and the survivors, with this kind of strange neutral relationship that they have with the Amish. Can you tell me more about the Amish element?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
So, Ashland, Ohio is where I lived at the time. It's where our studio is, and it is in the heart of Amish country in Ohio. So there's a very large Amish population right in the vicinity. Horses and buggies go past the studio every day, and it just felt very present from the beginning that if you're going to explore the dynamics of a post-apocalyptic town here, what are the Amish doing? And then from there, building out the world, a big part clicked with the character of Susanna, who shows up in the second half of the movie. And this was really a way to explore the ideas of faith, religious trauma, those sorts of things. And I also really loved the idea that in this post-apocalyptic world, the Amish world was not post-apocalyptic. It was just business as usual.
Yes.
Their worlds did not change. So I thought that was an interesting reversal from the normal relationship.
You have these kind of overlapping arcs as well. You have someone who's trying to escape the ideology of their people, and someone else who's at first tries to embrace the ideology of the cult, but then ends up rejecting it. So we've got a lot of exploration and rejection of ideologies, but also the worms. So yeah,
exactly. And I if I can add to that just a little bit, one of the really core ideas that Serge and I talked about a lot is the idea that the worms, as they enter your brain, are not exactly mind control worms, because these are people with entire lives, entire personalities. Instead, they have subtly affected the thinking. And more so, it's about how the people have created a coping mechanism through this cult, through this sort of perversion of religion, in order to live their lives. So we were really drawn to the idea that even with this this mind infection that does make you love the worms, that there was still free will within that.
Yeah, it was for me. I always liked that the worms are not necessarily driving the behavior. It's more about how people are reacting to being infected. What is it that they do? And some of that has shades going back to what we've all seen unfold during pandemic times and things like that. That idea that it's like, well, when faced with this like really crazy situation, how does human behavior react to that, knowing that you're now saddled with this infection that you can't do anything about, and you don't really know where it's going ultimately. And I think that's where sort of the mayor character comes in. It's that, which we tease throughout the film, but it is essentially a reveal of this is where it's all going. This is where it's all going to end up, which most people in the town don't know. They're just doing what they're doing to get from one day to the next.
Yeah, the mayor character, very. We don't want to go into too much plot spoilers. We'll hope that people will listen to this. It's embargoed, so people will listen to this after they've seen the film. But the mayor character,
Sure.
very, very interesting in that he's your classic kind of cult leader in that he's kind of dripping honey in the ears of his parishioners. But when you actually see him, he does have anger, but he's a very kind of reasonable leader. But he has this horrific exterior because his usage of the heartworm has matured and it's kind of distorted him. And I don't know, it has parallels with like modern day figureheads and what we could see on the outside, what is on the inside. So yeah, it's interesting what you say about the worms, how they don't really control, they just kind of exist and perhaps facilitate and gestate. I don't know.
Yeah, like I was always a big fan of particularly the first few seasons of The Walking Dead, where the zombies were not so much a central, like, yes, they lived in this world and it was all about a post-apocalyptic zombie landscape, but it was really about the people. And the zombies were sort of there sometimes to sort of force an issue or to just provide that constant threat and the things. But really, so much of the story evolves from the dynamics and the interplay between the characters. And that's one of the things that I really love. And I know we talked a lot about that in the rewriting of the script, and talked about that idea that it's like when bad things happen in The Walking Dead to the characters, like you really cared about them. And that was my goal. Is like I wanted people to feel that in this as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that comes through. There's a lot of emotional moments, key emotional moments in the story that kind of resonate. I want to bring us to the setting a bit. So Ashland is a great setting. I think from the notes that we were given and also what you've said, it's kind of based on it's the real Ashland? Was it all location shooting?
Yeah, it's all real locations in Ashland.
It looks kind of. It looks good. Be careful what I say here because this is an area that's beloved to you. But like, it's a great kind of post-apocalypse. Like the stark sunlight on the empty streets. It almost seems like an alien landscape at times. And it is kind of this post-apocalypse, post-event, and people inside in the dark behind their curtains are kind of having this kind of fractured society. But out in the streets, it's just this kind of desolate, strange, glowing landscape. Is that what it was like when you were younger?
So I didn't grow up in Ashland. I grew up in Utah.
Apologies. Apologies.
So I lived in Ashland for about 6 years, and so it was interesting existing in Ashland where you have this beautiful main street that is extremely well kept. The mayor, the real mayor, and the town take great pride in their downtown. And just a couple blocks away, you have the ruins of industry that has moved away. And so all of the post-apocalyptic settings that we used were just real locations within walking distance of Main Street. And I really loved that contrast visually. And so that I wrote everything to real locations. There was nothing where I wrote something and said, now I got to find a place for this. It was always with the sense of this scene is literally at this address in Ashland, right?
Yeah, one of my favorites is the school that we shot inside, which is like walking distance from the Good Deed production offices. I mean, it was such a quick move. when we were going there, and it was. I mean, we touched nothing going inside. We just made sure it was safe to be in there, and that we had permission. Which to the much thanks to the town of Ashland, like they were very open to allowing us to shoot in the town, and we shut that main street down on two separate days for the entire day, and they were very willing to do it. We obviously picked days. Andy and Phil were very good about picking days in which most businesses were closed, so it was not a huge ask, but it was amazing that they just let us kind of, yeah, go ahead, and they were very open and willing to help out. And that school was one where you look at in the scenes inside, very little from a production design standpoint or set decoration was done. The production designer walked in and was like, my job is done here. She I think in the classroom scene, her biggest contribution was moving some debris around and then writing a bunch of things on the blackboard to have things on there. And other than that, she was like, this is, and Carla had her work cut out for her on many other scenes. So we were glad to give her that break on that day.
Yeah, and again, yeah, there's a really kind of intimate geography to the town, and again, the contrast with the countryside where the Amish are. There's this contrast between small town America and this vast kind of frontier beyond and what surrounds it. So yeah, interesting to learn that all those locations were close together, because there are moments in the film where the different places that they go to are so distinct. It's interesting to know that they were all kind of clustered.
Yeah, the furthest I think we needed to go was all of the Amish scenes inside locations, like the barn, the house in which Suzanne and her brother lived, the blacksmith shop. Barn and the blacksmith shop and the home were sort of like a historical site that was preserved, where houses I think had been moved there, right? And they were sort of on display, which we were able to use. But I think that was about an hour away from Ashland. That was the furthest point we'd gone.
That's cool. I feel like we need to inevitably talk about worms. So, great practical effects. Kind of everyone always, horror movies have always, the history of horror has always tried to out-squirm people with eyeball effects, and we have a couple of real gnarly ones here. So great practical effects and other types of special effects. However, I felt like there was a lot of real worm actors involved in the film. So, like, did you have a worm wrangler? Like, how did that go?
We had a couple. There was always at least one person designated as worm wrangler on a day. It was not a standalone credit because we didn't have enough people to just have one person designated. But it was a chore to keep worms alive and make sure that they were in the right place at the right time. Make sure that the cooler with the worms was in the shade and not in the sun, because that could be bad. I believe we had 4 different species of worms, live worms plus some fake worms and some dried worms. So it was a whole operation to figure out what worked there.
Wow! So the role of worm wrangler was a shifting role. That's interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Team effort on that one.
Great. There's not a lot of worm-based horror. I think a couple of people I mentioned that I was doing this interview to, and they were like, "Oh, you mean like Tremors?" And I'm like, "No, not those sort of worms. Those are like the big worms, and those are called graboids." There's
one from the 70s called Squirm.
1976 is Squirm. Yes, I did think of this. But in terms of worm horror, it's not. Is it your? Have you set out to revitalize the worm horror subgenre?
So for me, I specifically avoided watching any of those movies until after we were done. So I watched Squirm like a month ago and enjoyed some of the gags in there. For me, that wasn't the influence. It was really when I was resurrecting the short script and wanted to get away from viruses, I just started researching human parasites. Went down a rabbit hole, a very horrifying and frightening rabbit hole. And the thing that scared me the most was called the guinea worm. So that Wikipedia article is like really gave me the like visceral heebie-jeebies. And so I said, like, worms are it. Worms are what's scary here. Let's figure out our own version of that.
Yeah, I think you have my personal joint first favorite worm surgery removal scene, along with The Ugly Stepsister, which came out this year, which has a horrific tapeworm scene. So yeah, I think I had to re-Google because it's a thing with worms, isn't it? Where if you vibrate the surface, they'll kind of like come to the surface, and then we have this horrific scene in the film, which I won't spoil too much for people. But the same thing happens. But what if the worms are inside you? Yeah, very, very good. We have spoken about all the wonderful kind of the writing and dramatic nuances in this film, but yeah, there's also gnarly worm shit. So,
that was the hope. That was the hope.
Yeah. I think I only had one more question, and it's will we kind of? It's quite an open-ended film. I know everything doesn't have to have a sequel, everything doesn't have to have a franchise, but I feel like, will we see more from our new punk rock Amish hero?
That's certainly been, we've had conversations. That's certainly been discussed.
She could travel the wasteland.
I think definitely in all of the conversations we've had, we would, if given the chance, we would love to jump back into this, and the characters who survive would definitely be the protagonists going forward. So we are so attached to those characters. The actors and actresses who played those characters did such a phenomenal job. So
yeah,
if anything, that's where it would go.
Right.
Yeah, I think the questions that were left were sort of a consequence of the idea that when we were looking at the story, we wanted to really focus it down to just the point of view of these, primarily the three characters, the uninfected characters of Kara, Jess, and Rose, and really they don't know anything. And so I thought it was really interesting to kind of see it from a perspective of people who just have been, in some ways, like, kept away. The information's been kept from them. It's been kept from the town to a certain extent, and they only know what they know, and so that idea of like what's beyond there, what's out there, like what's past these the Amish area, was something that, yeah, while it leaves a lot of those questions open at the end, possible for extend the story. I still love the idea that we just don't know, because they're in this little bubble that because really it's about, in these kind of situations, when you look at towns or countries that have like an information, where censorship is high and things like that. People just try to operate on the information they can get, and so it always will feel like there's just all these unresolved things, because they're being that information is either being purposefully directed somewhere else or held off altogether. And that to me was a really interesting situation, and even to leave it like that, because we oftentimes don't get an answer, and that's okay, as long as the relationships and the story of these characters is fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly think they were. I think I enjoyed not being told at every juncture, not being kind of saturated in exposition. I enjoyed being where the characters are for the most part. But I do think the characters in the world that you have built definitely deserves exploration. So I certainly hope that Wormtown is well received.
Yes,
Oh, likewise. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I believe it's the November 7th is the official. Is that also worldwide, Andy? Is that, or is the 7th the domestic?
It will be most of the world. So
Yeah.
it should be available in the UK on the same day.
November 7th.
November 7th.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you
That was
guys.
great.
This was really fun.
Live from Manchester Morgue is an independent horror movie podcast, researched, written, produced and hosted by Gary Hames and Ken Talbot. New episodes air every 2 weeks on Spotify, Apple, YouTube and all major podcast providers. You can help us grow by leaving a rating or sharing the show with like-minded friends. If you want to get in touch, you can leave us a comment or email us at killertunes976@gmail.com.